Hi, I'm Dr. Rudy Cashman, neurosurgeon, Fort Wayne, Indiana, for 43 years. But I'm only 39 years old. No, tonight we have a great show. It's going to be called Creating a Culture of Health. What do I mean by that? You know, I've been running these shows for about 3 years now in public access, and also have written about 15 books. All about 5 on pain, 5 on diet, stress, and motivation, psychology of eating, just one after another. I mean, they're all about wellness, about getting you well again, preventing illness, stopping, preventing, and reversing illness really is what it's all about. But on July 1, I'm going to stop doing neurosurgery, and my dream has come true. My dream has come true. Lutheran Hospital came to me, the Lutheran Health Network came to me and asked me to be their wellness director. I must say, I've been walking on a cloud ever since. This is what I've been speaking about all these years, because I've been motivated towards it, because I knew that 75% of the people that we're looking at in medicine need a coach. They need a coach. They don't need a lot done. And the hospital network has recognized this to get people well by prevention, reversing their disease. We have the best of physicians there in surgery and the internist, and I just can go on and on. We have the best doctors to treat you acutely, but what is left after you recover from that heart operation, or we're treating your diabetes, we've operated on your abdomen, or you've had a GYN procedure, or you've had cancer treatment, at that point we need to turn on the wellness equation, and this is what this is all about. We want to involve the whole medical community, the providers, the patient, and even the cafeteria and the kitchen. We plan to have at Lutheran Hospital the best salad bar in the city, because food is medicine. Food is medicine. Food responds to our own genetic structure and expresses it, so it's part of healing. But it's a whole culture. Everyone needs to be involved, and the Lutheran Hospital system. There's about 8 facilities, and I'm going to be directing that wellness equation, all of those, with many other people will be helping. So let's go on this journey today, where we'll be dealing really with medical, nutritional therapy, speaking about diet. And we are essentially what we eat, and we are eating really the industrial global diet. We're eating food that has many nasty chemicals in it. It's the industrial complex, the pharmaceutical complex. We'll be discussing that, and it's throughout the world. Our government supports the price of corn that makes our food cheap, and we're selling it all over the world. But these corn products, for example, have had pesticides and chemicals placed on them, and we're selling it, and we're really poisoning ourselves, poisoning the animals, and we're poisoning the country. And we need to understand that processed food is full of chemicals, pesticides, fertilizers, hormones, and we're eating that on stuff, and our evolutionary bodies are revolting to it. So we're getting so much diabetes, so much vascular disease, and we're poisoning ourselves as well as the planet. We are destroying our own bodies in other countries, and we need to understand that and reverse that, and go back to organic farming, eating healthier foods. And the biggest cost to us right now is type 2 diabetes. It's 1 out of 2 people that I look at every day in my office as a neurosurgeon has type 2 diabetes. And that is mainly based on their weight, the body mass index, where the insulin level is too high. Type 1 diabetes is where the pancreas dies from an autoimmune reaction many times in childhood, and we don't have enough insulin. Insulin enough. Type 2 diabetic, if they have it long enough, the insulin gets sick and tired of secreting so much insulin. The pancreas dies, so a type 2 diabetic now has to take insulin shots, when before he took mainly pills. We are the first generation of children being born today where the parents will outlive the children. Obesity is becoming rampant among teenagers because they're eating the wrong food, and many children become diabetic. A term has been formed called diabesity, not diabetes, but diabesity. What does that mean? What that really includes the pre-diabetic state. In the pre-diabetic state, we're overweight. We're overweight. Our blood sugar is normal, but our insulin level is elevated. The problem is that the medical community does not check the insulin level very often. So have your insulin level checked, and you might find your blood sugar is normal, you're overweight, but your insulin level is elevated. You have pre-diabetes. Pre-diabetes results many times in a heart attack, vascular disease, dementia, increased rate of cancer. So the word diabesity includes the pre-diabetic state, which you have for 10, 15 years with a normal blood sugar, while your body inside doesn't look so pretty, although you may look pretty good, except maybe a bit overweight. And so diabesity includes a pre-diabetic state, which I call the golden opportunity, the time to kill the disease with proper eating, before you become a type 2 diabetic. And let me tell you the names of some good websites to look at. One would be diabetesmiracles.com. Franklin House, whose book I brought with me tonight here, and I'll hold up for you. Franklin House's book. He's from the Lifestyle Institute, I think in Arizona, I believe. Dean Ornish works out of there in Esseltine, I think. And what he's saying is he can reverse 2-type diabetes in 30 days. In 30 days by eating nutrient-dense food. Matter of fact, what he teaches is on page 57, he summarizes it, is exactly what I teach, nutrient density. And we'll review that in detail as we go along. But a great website to look at, diabetesmiracles.com. If you eat the way he describes, you literally can stop oral medication within a week. A lot of times at his institute, it takes away the first day because your food is going to be so nutrient dense, your blood sugars will drop very quickly. So you have to call your doctor and say, I'm eating differently now. Another good website is bloodsugarsolutions.com by Dr. Mark Hyman. I think it's also a very good book. I will hold it up for you here. And a very good book to read. His website is great. I mean, it's just fantastic website. And he's about 7 ways of eating, from nutrition to watching your information, to detoxifying, to exercising, to spirituality. And we'll review that also. My own website at cashmanmindbody.com. I have a good website. I wrote a book called The Secret of Reversing Type 2 Diabetes, based all on these famous works, and a book that's really worth reading, The Secret of Reversing Type 2 Diabetes. Another excellent book I'll be referring to today would be End of Diabetes by Dr. Joel Furman. I'll hold that up for you. Actually, my name is on the back cover. I've reviewed it for Harper's. Dr. Furman is a friend of mine. You see him all the time on PBS. And he is The End of Diabetes, an excellent book. Also, Dr. Joel Furman has an excellent website. There's a testimonial on there from a person, Emily, who lives in Fort Wayne. Emily lives in Fort Wayne on 24, and she lost 100 pounds. Great picture of her. She looked quite ill, and now she looks like a movie star. We love you, Emily. She comes and teaches my patients sometimes, and Dr. Furman has put her on the Dr. Oz show, and she's rid of her diabetes. Do you have diabesity? Remember what I said? Diabesity, that's pre-diabetes and type 2 diabetes. First of all, it's a family history of it, okay? There's a history of heart disease, strokes in your family. Is your blood pressure elevated? Almost every type 2 diabetic has elevated blood pressure. Why is that? Because in your pre-diabetic state, The elevated insulin was painting your arteries with atherosclerosis and stiffening the arteries, and that's what causes the hypertension. Almost every type 2 diabetic is hypertensive. It's the history of are you Asian? Are you South American? Are you from Africa? People from there have a thrifty gene based through evolution. If they eat the right food, like in Kenya in 1954, they couldn't find a person with a heart attack. But when I was at Washington, D.C., my residency at Georgetown, I took care of brain hemorrhages from horrible hypertension, strokes, heart attacks on a regular basis. Same people from Africa, but eating the wrong food. They're eating the mad, sad, toxic American diet because of the thrifty gene. You see, in evolution, they could eat an animal and become fat. And they'd eat for a month, say, and they lived. So they were selected through evolution. They have that gene in their body. South Americans have it, Japanese have it, Asians have it, Pima Indians in Arizona have it. They eat the right food, they're skinny. They eat the wrong food, they explode, develop diabetes and hypertension. So people from certain cultures are much more likely to develop hypertension, type 2 diabetes, and it's rampant in this country. It's rampant in this country. If your body mass index is over 25 and you're a male, you're obese, you may have prediabetes. If you have morbid obesity, you're over 40 inches waist circumference, body mass index, BMI greater than 40, odds are either pre-diabetic or diabetic. Do you have belly fat? Belly fat is very interesting. It's not just under your skin. Belly fat is in your abdominal cavity, and the fat wraps itself around your organs, around the liver, around the pancreas. I saw a CT scan recently of someone who had a back problem, and so I could see the belly fat. I mean, the fat looks white on a CT scan, and all the organs were being choked off by fat. Came to see me because of the backache, but the real problem that this patient had is type 2 diabetes. And we have what's called cryptogenic liver disease, where the fat invades the liver. 25% of obese people have it, and it's killing our nation. This will be the most common cause of liver transplant in the future, will be cryptogenic liver disease, where fat invaded the liver. And it's a real threat to your health. And you may even feel pretty good except you're overweight, but 25% of people overweight have cryptogenic liver disease. It's more common to have a liver transplant in the future from cryptogenic liver disease than it is from cirrhosis from drinking. Not believable. This nation will be devastated by the cost of it, no less than bad health. So we talk about the belly fat is indicative of type 2 diabetes, also indicative of stress. If you're a stress eater, you're much more likely to have belly fat there. Is your LDL elevated? Your low-density cholesterol is elevated over 70, or your HDL, the good cholesterol, is too low, male or female, more likely to have diabetes. Are you an active person watching TV, eating potato chips all day, and you don't move, and you're overweight? Odds of having either pre-diabetes or type 2 diabetes is high. We have in this country 70 million people who have pre-diabetes. Almost not believable. 70 million people. Remember, 25% of them have cryptogenic liver disease. They're painting their arteries. We have in our body 300,000 miles of blood vessels. My God, I didn't know that till recently. And most people, providers I talk to, don't even know that. Yeah, you're talking about the capillaries. From here to the moon, 300,000 miles of microvessels. It is in these microvessels that sugar in the blood combines with protein and it gets deposited in them. And that's why type 2 diabetic develop a high rate of blindness, high rate of heart disease, high rate of peripheral vascular disease, high rate of diabetic neuropathy, and then they become amputated. So those are the complications of type 2 diabetes, and that's the reason you want to avoid it. It can be prevented, stopped, prevented, and reversed 90% of the time. Great news. But I'll be honest with you, rarely do I meet a type 2 diabetic who knows that the disease can be reversed, prevented in the first place, and treated with weight loss, not just medication. Medication, a lot of the time, is an enemy of treatment, but really, metformin is a great drug, but some of the others actually cause weight gain. But I didn't say stop the medicine. You can check with your doctor. But that's, to me, by creating this culture of wellness, this is the main disease we have to defeat. At Lutheran Hospital, I plan to have once a month to give a lecture on reversing type 2 diabetes, along with the diabetic department, with some of the other physicians there and the PAs, once a month, and I hope for it to be low cost, maybe no cost, and because we need to do this to create this culture of health, and everybody has to help. People who teach exercise need to help. I like, for example, and I think that's very important. If you have polycystic ovarian syndrome, you may be type 2 diabetic. If you're having sexual dysfunction, you may be type 2 diabetic. And we already mentioned inactivity. And so what you don't know, this is about education. I'm trying to educate you, to motivate you, to make you do something. Education is the answer. I find if I have patients and I put my love in there and I educate them, many times I finish an operation, I operate on the back, but they have type 2 diabetes, which is a bigger issue to me than their back. I generally will see them once a month and educate them about trying to get rid of this monkey on their back. And I've generally included that in my operation. I charge them nothing. See them once a month for a year to get rid of the diabetes. I have 200 people. I eliminate the diabetes. And I was able to motivate the people, not because I'm a special person, it's because I saw them every month. I saw them back. I weighed them. I taught them how to exercise. And so nearly all people overweight have diabetes or pre-diabetes. So diabesity, okay, which involves pre-diabetes and diabetes, if you're overweight, a good chance you have it. So your doctor needs to do an insulin test. And the best test is not just a blood sugar or the HbA1c, which measures your blood sugar over a 2-month period. You know, if it's over 5.5, over 6, you may have diabetes. But I tell you, better test, get that test done too. That's important. Better test is to take 75 grams of sugar and after fasting, and then they check your serum insulin and your blood sugar at a 1-hour level and a 2-hour level. That is clearly the best test. Dr. Mark Hyman, in his book, nails that point home. I agree with it. That'll catch the pre-diabetic. 90% of people who have pre-diabetes do not know about it. That's killing us. That's killing us. It's going to kill them. It's going to create a tremendous amount of disease, and that must be corrected. You need to get that serum insulin test, that 75 gram and swallowed, if you're overweight or obese. There are even a few people who are skinny because of family history, that they have pre-diabetes. And what I'm really saying is we have a basic genetic structure, which I tell you hasn't changed in hundreds of thousands of years very much. Our genes only change at 0.02% every 20,000 years. So why are we getting so sick? How come we have 500 million diabetics in the world? Yes, 35 million in this country, another 70 million in this country who are pre-diabetic. And how come? Because of the exposure to nasty food that we're now eating. Our bodies haven't changed any, but since we're doing all this farming and now wheat products and corn products, our bodies are unused to it. And then we're adding the chemicals and the fertilizers and the pesticides, and we're eating this stuff. Fish isn't out of the ocean the majority of the time anymore. Fish is out of farms. What do they feed them on these farms? Pesticides, herbicides, soy products, petroleum products, and then we eat the darn things. I ate some fish recently. It tasted like corn to me. What it was a corn-fed fish. And I could taste it. I thought that was unusual, but somebody else told me they could taste it. And it should be from Alaska, or in the season, sort of from May to October. Out of season, get it frozen. Get it frozen. And you got to pin the restaurant people down. Hey, is this corn-fed fish or is this fresh fish? And type 2 diabetes is the single biggest chronic disease in America. And we talk about the serum insulin test. We should be called the United States of diabesity. We're becoming sick. This has to be greatly exercised. And as I mentioned, it's a global problem because we're exporting corn products that are cheaper than our neighboring countries because of government support. Incidentally, because our food products are so much cheaper, we're eating a lot more of them. We're eating less of them because they're more expensive. They're not good for us. The most poverty-stricken part of the population are the most obese. Why is that? Food is so cheap. It's so cheap. And it's killing them. No one seems to care. And we are destroying neighboring island economies around us. They can't sell their food products because they can't make them cheaper than us because they don't have government supports. South Korea, let me tell you a story. We had this North Korea, South Korea thing in the news every day. My friend Dr. Furman wrote that book, Eat to Live and End of Diabetes. My friend, who I was just in Italy in the mountains with a couple of weeks ago, is hired by the government to go to Korea to teach the doctors how to teach the patients how to eat right. You know what happened to Korean people, South Korean people? They ate mainly white rice, and they used to exercise a lot and work hard, and they had no diabetes, no obesity. The Americans came into the country, and they brought along 30% American food. And their restaurants by the same name they're in this country, okay? So 40% white rice, which is 80% on the glycemic index, 0 to 100, and 80 is pretty high, very sugary, and combined it with 30% nasty American food. Now we have 70% back food. You know what happened to them? You can guess it. I would tell you. They became obese. That their type 2 diabetic rate is higher than ours. So what's happening there? The North Koreans don't have to defeat the South Koreans with the A-bomb. They're defeating them with American food. I mean, it's almost humorous, but it's a true story. The newspapers haven't picked up on it. We are defeating the South Koreans with American food. I bet if you checked the North Korean soldiers, who probably get a better food than the rest of the nation, I bet they're very healthy. I bet the arteries are clean because they're not eating the nasty American food. Interesting story. Hate to bring it up, but it's the truth of the matter. Let's talk about dietary fats a little bit and the value. I mean, we have to eat some fat products. You can't eat a zero-fat diet. You should be eating around maybe 20% fat diet. Americans eat 40% fat diet, okay? And that's why we're so overweight. Some of the omega-3s, these are the good fats that make up our cell membranes, our hormones, our anti-inflammatories. That's omega-3. And that's why I say we should eat some fish oil every day, for example. And I take about 1,200 milligrams of DHA and ALA and take it every day in a capsule. Some vitamin D3, 2,000 units. I don't believe a lot of supplements, but there's two good ones. So omega-3 is a good fat and anti-inflammatory. You can get it flax seeds, and you can get it as fish oil. Make a smoothie. I like smoothies and juicing. Very healthy because of the phytochemicals. We have vitamins, we have minerals, we have 25,000 phytochemicals, okay? It's a symphony, it's a mosaic, it's the rainbow of interaction of these chemicals that lead to good health. Meat products, unfortunately, are not your friend, but I did not say you should not eat any meat. Okay, but you need to get the fat off it. And I was just reading another health paper today that actually in beef, it's not just the fat that's killing you, having cancer factors in it that promote cancer and angiogenesis, which the blood supply to cancer, that it also has hormones in it. If you eat meat in the gut, will stimulate certain bacteria to spit out certain chemicals that paint your arteries. So it's not just the cholesterol and fat and saturated fat in beef, for example. It's also the other chemicals they put out. But I think it's okay to eat some meat. For example, some turkey, some skinless chicken, for example. and but actually, I give lectures on animal protein versus plant protein at Purdue, and I have one coming up very soon. Actually, beans and broccoli have more protein in it per gram than beef. Many people do not realize that. I need my protein, so I eat my meat. That's totally false. You can have great muscles, great energy, eat no meat products at all. Just be a vegetarian, but I'm not suggesting that. I say be a flexitarian. Now, it's about 80% vegetarian diet. We can eat a vegetarian where you don't eat meat products, but you still eat milk products, and milk products have in it proteins that are not very good for you, causes asthma, type 1 diabetes. In children, it's related to drinking a lot of milk. So get away from milk products. What animal drinks the milk of another animal? Hell, nobody does. Nobody does. So milk after age 2 is not important. Matter of fact, it's dangerous. The casein in it is what really does it. But mother's milk is the healthiest. You want your child to have the biggest brain, do breastfeeding for 2 years. It's omega-3 fats in milk that develop that 3-pound brain. So we have omega-3 fats. They're anti-inflammatory, lowers serum triglycerides, repairs membranes. Omega-3 is very important. You can get it from fish, too. But remember I said fresh fish, not farm-fed fish. And very healthy. Twice a week with a nice salad, a nice piece of fresh salmon with a salad. Great eating. Great eating. I think that's fine. Then we have monosaturated fats. That's olive oil, canola oil. And in the Mediterranean diet, we say olive oil, use it all you want. Let me tell you something. These oils are 100% fat. You're going to gain weight if you use a lot of oils. Maybe a tablespoonful is enough. Dr. Furman, in his way of the nutrient-dense diet, is what he teaches, that recommends very little olive oil. And he teaches a nutrient-dense diet, and a nutritarian is what he calls them. And that's a person who considers the nutrient density of their food. For example, I have a food pyramid, and I have meat at the top, but at the bottom is cruciferous vegetables and fruits and beans and nuts, 100% whole grain, and meat's at the top. I don't recommend much meat. And that's really the summary of these main people I've mentioned to you, that some meat's okay, but actually if you knew what they do to animals to put them on your plate, you wouldn't eat a lot of it. And I watched that movie Babe, which Oprah had on. She stopped eating pork. And I saw the opening scenes of that DVD, and I could watch it 20 seconds, and that was about it. So there's a lot of cruelty to animals and chicken, and if you knew that, you wouldn't even eat it. But let's go on. Polyunsaturated fats are vegetable oils, and they're anti-inflammatory, but in excess amounts can cause inflammatory dysfunction, inflammation of your arteries. Saturated fats are the bad ones. They're found in grass-fed animals, meats, milk, and dairy. Let me tell you what they do to beef. The state of Iowa, for example, is 98% corn, which has been fertilized by hormones, pesticides, by carbon products. And then they take a beef, they graze it on grass. That's what it's used to eating for 6 months. Then they put it in a smaller cage, and they teach it to eat corn. And that's not easy to do, but after a couple of months, the beef get used to eating corn. Then they put the beef in a cage by itself, and they don't take the feces away. They just let them stand in that, and they put insecticides in that because it's full of bugs, and the beef will eat that, and they feed it corn products, which are full of herbicides, pesticides, and hormones. And then after 150 days of that, the beef is 25% are quite sick. They have liver abscesses, and they kill it, and they put it on your plate, and you eat it. That's what you're eating. Many chemicals, and certainly there's been cruelty to the animals. And so those are the saturated fats which you want to avoid. The palm oils are multi-chained fatty acids and actually fairly healthy. but still, there's a lot of fat in there. So you don't want to, use a lot of palm oils and coconuts, very fat. But it's a more healthy multi-chain fatty acids. But you to have some of that's fine, but you don't want it to dominate your diet. Then we speak about the omega-6s. Those are the pro-inflammatory fats, but you need some of that. You get that from fish and meat products. The omega-6, there needs to be sort of a 1-to-1 ratio of 6-to-3. But in reality, most Americans have 12-to-1. 1 being the omega-3, the good one, and 12 is the omega-6 if you're eating that 40% American diet. So then when you hydrogenate the oils, put hydrogen into them, you can make them solid. You can take oils and add a hydrogen atom, and now it's margarine, for example. And so diabetes, as we mentioned, is a major cause of chronic disease. Many of them have heart disease, more likely to have heart attacks and strokes, and we already spoke about the illness of diabetes. Dementia is a common complication of type 2 diabetes. It's a big thing. Actually, they're talking about dementia will overtake all the diseases that we have, yes, because sugar hooks to protein in the blood when your sugar is elevated, and it forms ages, and those ages are deposited in your brain cells, and you lose your memory. Much higher rate of dementia and Alzheimer's disease in type 2 diabetics. I personally feel, and this is good news, that dementia can be avoided 90% of the time. I think Alzheimer's disease is overdiagnosed, and they're 87 years old, and they have some memory loss, like I saw the other day when I was walking out of the country club, and a wife was saying to my wife that, Dr. X has Alzheimer's disease. Baloney. He's 87 years old. He's missing a few words. That's dementia. But that can be avoided the majority of the time. I'm totally convinced of it by eating the right food and by exercising. Look at my website at cashformindbody.com. There's a brain on the left side of the first page, lifting weights. You can go to that next page. I have on there probably 6 months worth of things you can do to avoid memory loss. My longevity mind-body index, 20 things you can do to avoid that. I think we can avoid that memory loss if you do the right things. I'm totally convinced of it. No one's pushing it. I think it's very important, and it's going to be a part of the culture of health at the Lutheran Health Network. I'm going to really emphasize that. We'll be giving a lot of talks on it. So to keep, because you don't just want to exercise your body, you want to exercise your brain. I wrote a book actually on how to live to be 100. It's on AmazonBooks.com, and it's got all that in there. And then we spoke about cryptogenic liver disease, and it will be the biggest cause, of liver transplants. Let's talk a little bit. This is very interesting. Fructose corn syrup. You hear that a lot, it's a scourge in this country, and by becoming a little bit more aware of it. The Japanese invented the darn thing around 1970. Of course, it's made from corn, and it's this nasty stuff, and our government helps pay for it. But corn supports. Our government is killing us. Our government is killing us by supporting the price of corn and wheat and sugar. It's ridiculous. I say it is ridiculous. Our government is killing us. We're paying the taxes for them to spend to support that farm product. They should be supporting healthy, nutritional food, not the nasty stuff that's killing us. So let's get back to fructose corn syrup. And it's invented it's patented by the Japanese. It's super sweet. The only darn trouble with it, if you take a sugary drink, okay, and it has fructose corn syrup in it, which will be half sucrose and half fructose. As it enters your bloodstream quickly, a matter of fact, when it hits your gut, it opens the pores up and quickly reaches into your bloodstream. Half of it is the fructose. It's different fructose than in fruits, metabolized differently, okay? And the fructose in fruit is chemically different. But from fructose corn syrup, it rapidly goes to the liver and is immediately metabolized into LDL and fat and is deposited in your body. It is not, there's no insulin response, there's no leptin response, so it doesn't turn your appetite off, and that's the reason you put down these huge bottles of fructose corn syrup, and it's going to make you obese. It's going to make you obese. And the other half, the sucrose, goes into the bloodstream, metabolized, made into glycogen, used as energy. So if you want to gain weight, start drinking fructose corn syrup. And it frankly should be banned. I think Bloomberg in New York made a mistake. He tried to regulate the size of it. That's not a good. He should regulate it. He should have taxed it, just like cigarettes. It's killing us just like cigarettes. And use the tax money for teaching the culture of health, or pay for Medicaid or Medicare, whatever, pay for our health. That's what should have been done. He made a mistake. I mean, I like a lot of things he does, but that would have been the right thing to do. Forget about the size, but tax the heck out of it so these drinks become more expensive. They certainly should not be in the school system. Any school system that has sugary drinks that you can get out of a machine are trying to kill their children. They're trying to kill their children. It counts a lot for childhood obesity. And also don't be fooled by non-diet drinks because it has aspartame. Aspartame is sweet, and it will cause you to eat sweeter food. So obesity is also related to non-sugar drinks. The best thing, drink water with lemon. That's your drink. And so fructose corn syrup is converted to LDL, and especially the low-density cholesterol, and it's very bad for your health. That's what fat's made from very quickly, and you need to, teenagers, 40% of their diet, frankly, is sugary drinks, is related to fructose corn syrup. So to take them to a certain fast food restaurant and order the French fries, and they're bathed in fructose corn syrup, you're killing your child. It's child abuse. It's child abuse. And you got to be aware of what you're putting in the mouth of your children. Children like to eat good food. They love to eat vegetables. But that's what you got to provide at home. You don't want to have donuts laid out there filled with fructose corn syrup. That is why when you eat one donut, you can't stop. It's happened to me. I don't do it no more, but years ago, you can't stop because the fructose corn syrup in the donut goes to the liver, doesn't go to the blood, doesn't turn my appetite off, so I want to eat the whole 12 donuts. That's interesting. It's very interesting. Now you understand it. I mean, who controls the energy balance over your body? A lot of it is the ventromedial nucleus and the hypothalamus. That's just above the pituitary gland, and it is leptin from fat that will turn your appetite on and off, or ghrelin from your stomach, which turns the appetite on. So it's hormonally regulated up there. Leptin, that comes from the word leptos, which means thin, was a term that was formed in 1994. And we have a personal leptal threshold, but we develop leptin resistance if we're eating always the wrong food. Remember, we have a basic genetic structure, okay? But it responds to what we're eating. So food is medicine. And our genes will not express themselves abnormally. We'll stay thin unless we present to it bad food. So when we take in bad food, we are affecting our gene structure. The Thrifty Gene goes and we become obese and overweight. And unfortunately, that a lot of people don't recognize the overweight. I mean, take your clothes off, have a look, and be honest about it. Okay? You see, wait a minute, I'm way out of whack. Well, visualize yourself becoming thinner over the next 6 months by eating nutrient-dense diet, foods of color, except mushrooms and onions have no color, extremely healthy. A mushroom has in it many phytochemicals. Remember, I spoke about 25,000 phytochemicals that are very healthy. You want to cut your breast cancer rate in half, eat it. Have a big slice of fresh mushroom a day and a big slice of onion and eat them every day, fresh, uncooked. You'll cut your breast cancer rate 40%. It's in the medical literature. I can show you the literature in Dr. Furman's work. It's not something that I made up anything, but it's not emphasized. I hardly ever meet a woman who knows that she could cut a breast cancer rate about 30–40% by eating the right food. If I met one woman that knew that, at best, I talked to 200 nurses the other day, and not one of them knew it, and it's not believable. And we spend all our money to research this rare gene at Indiana, for which I haven't seen any great results. But I'm glad they're doing the research, no doubt about it. But we could cut the breast cancer rate in half by following a culture of health in this community. We'd be cutting a breast cancer rate in half. It's even been proven now that people who have metastatic breast cancer is that if they eat a nutrient-dense diet, they can lengthen their lifespan and occasionally get a spontaneous cure. That's out of Nutrition magazine, recently a published case. So nutrition is very important for cancer patients, and they need to pay attention to nutrition to prevent it, and once they have it, to also pay attention. Very important thing that's not emphasized enough. And so leptin resistance is the holy grail of obesity. You develop leptin resistance like insulin resistance, which causes type 2 diabetes. See, insulin resistance, what is it? Why do you get type 2 diabetes? Let's take a typical cell. We have 70 trillion of them, okay? And here's a typical cell. And they have tentacles coming off there called receptors. So for a drug to work, it's got to either hit those receptors to make it work, like morphine that Candace Pert described in 1972. Where does morphine work? It hits these receptors. That was the first time they were demonstrated. But it's insulin's job to take sugar and touch the receptors and open the door to the cell. And in the cell, the sugar then combines with oxygen and forms ATP, the energy molecule, in the mitochondria. Every one of our cells has mitochondria, and those are little factories. Matter of fact, a typical cell will have thousands of mitochondria in it. They're the little energy factors that make ATP, adenosine triphosphate, the energy molecule. The heart is 40%, heart cells are 40% mitochondria. Very interesting. They're the energy molecule. But in a person that's overweight and the fats are elevated in the blood, these receptors get so full of fat that the insulin cannot take the sugar and get it in the cell. So what does the body do? Secretes insulin like anything, tries to overwhelm it to push the sugar in. For a while it can do that. And you check your sugar, it's okay, and the patient feels energetic. But that leads right back to what I was saying. It took a lot of insulin to get the sugar in. So in the blood, the insulin level is elevated. The sugar may be normal, but the insulin is elevated because of insulin resistant. The sugar could not get the insulin in there. That's insulin resistance. I've never had a type 2 diabetic who could show me or to make me draw me a picture of what insulin resistance is. It's sort of sad that we in the community must teach it to them, because once they know it, they understand why they need to lose weight to get rid of the insulin resistance, which is causing type 2 diabetes. And remember, the elevated insulin level makes brain cells sticky, causes arteriosclerosis, increased rate of cancer, and microvascular disease. So the pre-diabetic state is not a healthy state. So insulin resistance, and a sign of insulin resistance is a pot belly. If you get a pot belly, you may have insulin resistance, because fat doesn't just sit there. Remember, it bathes the organs. It bathes the liver, the spleen, the gut, and it just literally invades it and causes cryptogenic liver disease. And medicine needs to change, and we are slowly changing. And sort of what I'm speaking about today is really functional medicine. We're not just talking about pills. We're not just talking about heart surgery. We're not talking about just pills for type diabetic. We're talking about actually reversing or curing disease by looking at the molecular chemistry of it. And we're looking at the cause of it, not just to treat it. Here's your pill. Oh, you're fine. Oh, many patients say, oh, I don't have diabetes. My medicine is controlling it. Baloney. You get diabetes. You get diabetes. And you're killing yourself. If you can get rid of the disease, so it's not just about pills, it's about getting rid of the disease. So come to our classes. We're going to have a Lutherans once a month, maybe free actually, and where we'll teach you everything about averting type 2 diabetes. If people would do everything we teach them, we cut medical care costs in this area 20, 40% easily, easily. But it will be not that easy. But let's all participate together. Let's form a community of wellness, which should. And I spoke to the mayor 2 days ago for breakfast. He said, "I'd be glad to help. Rudy, call me anytime. I'll show up for any." When we kick this off, July 1, he said, for example, he would be there. I mean, what a great guy. I heard nothing, but I'll be there, Rudy. I'd like to help. So he is really involved with this plague of overweight and, unfortunately, obesity that we have. Remember, this is not judgmental. We're not being judgmental, okay? And I work out at Species, and I love it there. And I also work out at Planet Fitness. I love those places. And I have to compliment them for keeping the costs reasonable. I think, but exercise alone won't do it. That's 30%. And I like to remind the people that, for example, I see a lot of overweight people at Planet Fitness, and I'm glad they're there. I'm happy they're there. But I'll tell you, and a place needs to be complimented for keeping the price reasonable. But they will not truly knock off those pounds. They'll not get the job done without eating the right food. I love to get my books over there. A combination of books and exercise, they'll do it. And people are working out heavy, those places. Species in there. And it's just marvelous. 5,000 people belong to Planet Fitness. Species has many members. But they get it. I have my books over at Species. I don't make my money there. I make it in surgery, for Pete's sake. But that's not why I'm talking this. But they're not going to get that weight off unless they're learning to eat right. It's not exercise alone. Will not do it unless you're a marathon runner. And people are there, over there working very hard. I'm so proud of them. It's the reason I go over there. It's nice, I think, to see a doctor among them all. And I just love the place. So we're talking about functional medicine. And let's talk about the 7 myths of obesity, of being overweight, okay? That type 2 diabetes is genetic. No, it's not genetic. But remember, your genes will react to the food. Food is medicine. So if you eat bad food, it will react to it. And if it doesn't like it, you're going to develop disease, vascular disease, diabetes, dementia. Remember, the genetic change is 0.2% per 20,000 years. So why are we getting so sick? We're eating the wrong food, processed food, the chemicals, big pharma, pharmaceutical companies. Farming today is chemical farming. Canada is 95% chemical farming. I happened to sit next to a lady. The plane didn't move for an hour. I think God did it to me because he wanted me to talk to the lady who's the main saleswoman for Cargill in Canada. She's telling me it's nothing but chemical farming. I never thought it'd be up there. There's no organic farming. It's all chemicals on the ground to make it grow faster so they can make money. Very little organic farming here, but there's some organic farming going on around here. I was speaking to Dr. Mark King's wife. She is doing organic farming. I spoke to Matt Merritt right by St. Francis. He's got an organic farm going. I compliment them. I visit their places because this is very healthy food coming from there. In our genetic structure, it can be changed by exposure to bad or good food. It's called epigenetics. End of our DNA has little strands on it, and we can influence that by what we're eating to the point, and that part you can inherit. So you can change the DNA by eating nasty food. You can improve it by eating good food. And we're speaking there about toxins and with oxidation, browning of our food, for example. So we have our genome, our DNA, and our genes, but we have our exposome, the part of the genetic structure, the strands, the epigenetics, has been shown can be influenced by what you do, what you're eating, how stressful you are, for example. So food is information. Food is information. Yes, food is information. So we keep, let's speak about the white menace. What's the white menace? White sugar, white flour, shortening, white fats, myth 2, that type 2 diabetes is not reversible. Mistake. Hardly ever meet anybody thinks it's reversible. It's silliness. And all these books prove it, that by getting your body mass index down to maybe down 10, 15% or to normal, odds of getting rid of type 2 diabetes, 90%, and all the other diseases that go with it, from cancer to dementia to vascular disease to skin changes. And myth 4, once on insulin, type 2 diabetic, suppose later on your pancreas just puffs out from secreting all that insulin to push your sugar into your cell. It can poop out, and now you're on insulin. That's not reversible. False. False. I've seen it many times. It's in these books. That's not true. That can be true some of the time. And in the few that don't reverse, they may be taking 80 units of insulin, but now you can get them down to 20 or so, and they may stay on a low dose. Totally wrong. It can be clearly affected. And so it's very important. And myth 5 is that by using all these medications that you cure yourself of disease. That's ridiculous. In these books, right out of Hyman's book, he likes metformin, but that's the only one he likes. The other ones, he found too many side effects, increases your appetite. Most of the people that are on these medications, they're obese. It's not curing them of anything. You want to get rid of diabetes, you got to get the weight off. And that's very important. And myth number 6, that the answer to your vascular disease is some procedure. Sure, they're helpful. Sometimes you need a heart operation. Sometimes you need an angioplasty. And we have the best of them at Lutheran Hospital. No doubt about that. But when they get done with you, and you still got type 2 diabetes, and you still got vascular disease, remember they're fixing just a little part of your artery, you still got the disease, then you need to join the culture of health and exercise and start eating the right diet and get rid of your disease. And especially these very severe heart patients. For example, Dr. Esseltine at the Cleveland Clinic, I'm happy to say Lutheran Hospital is joining Cleveland Clinic in some of their efforts to work together, the best of both, interchange information and hook up with each other. And I'm going to visit Cleveland Clinic soon, actually. But Dr. Esseltine published a book where he took 25, the most advanced cardiac patients, and he and his wife taught them how to eat the nutrient-dense diet. 25 years ago, you know where the 25 people are today who had advanced heart disease? 22 of them are alive. 25 years later, Dr. Esseltine I've met personally, and I'm going to bring his course to town here. Either he comes or I teach it. It's going to be one of the two for advanced cardiac failure patients. But to eat that way, even with the slightest vascular disease, you can stop it, prevent it, reverses. Dean Ornish proved it, Esseltine proved it, Furman proved it, Hyman proved it. I'm proving it by reading all the stuff and providing you with the information. So a procedure is not the answer to your life. It's helpful. Save your life. We have the best here. But you got to treat the disease. And so what are we switching to? We're talking really about nutrigenomics. We're speaking about how food affects your gene structure to make you healthy. If you eat the bad food, you're going to affect your DNA, and you're going to go down the path of disease, of amputations, and dementia, and heart disease, and sudden death. Just a change in weight, incidentally, does not cure you of metabolic disease or of heart disease or vascular disease. If you go have liposuction, you may have lost 30, 40 pounds. Your metabolism will not change, incidentally, if you're not aware of that. Yeah, it will not change. But if you had, say, we have Dr. Sloan at Lutheran, who is just done best at some of these abdominal procedures for people who just cannot lose that weight, and they have them done. He's just the best at doing it, but that's not the final answer, because you still have the same mindset that caused you to overeat to begin with. But boy, I've seen some good results from that, but that's not the final answer to this. But some people need the combination of it because they just can't lose it. And they, indeed, the metabolism changes. A lot of them have lost their type 2 diabetes for a period of time, unless they start eating wrong again. And him and I have really, we have one patient at Lutherans weighed 400 pounds. It's down to 190. And she looks beautiful today. It was a combination of him and I. I taught her this, and he'd perform a gastric procedure. So sometimes these things are necessary. So what I'm saying is we're the best of science in combination with the culture of wellness. It's a combination, and it's teamwork. And let's talk about food addiction a little bit. We have the dopamine system across the brain, and it can be affected by narcotics. It can be affected by laughter. It can be affected by food. Incidentally, food is the most addictive substance going. I had a debate with Emily when I talked about the lost 100 pounds on public access TV, the same show here. We debated whether narcotics or food was more addictive. I think she won the debate. I think it's food, and the reason is we have to eat every day. We use food to relieve our stress. People who are economically deprived, for example, will use food to relieve their stress and become addicted, essentially, to the food. Sugar is addictive. It's addictive. I mean, Mark Hyman's book, The Blood Sugar Solution, he's mentioning, I mean, sugar really is a carbohydrate and a fat. It's either converted to fat or converted to carbohydrates, or we use it up as an energy. And they demonstrated through PET and SPECT scans in radiology, they've demonstrated the circuitry up there now of sugar addiction. The sugar lights up a certain part of the brain, and the nucleus accumbens. It makes you feel good. It's like you would be taking dopamine or serotonin. Let me mention quickly for a few seconds, because our time is soon coming to a close. I think I can speak another hour. It's about exercise. Exercise really is a poly pill with tremendous benefits. So we call it tremendous benefits. Improves your muscle metabolism, lowers your blood sugar, causes weight loss, it stimulates your appetite, you sleep better, it lowers your triglycerides, lowers your LDL, improves your HDL, reduces inflammation, reduces your CRP, the reactive protein. It improves the function of your mitochondria. Remember the little energy factories we spoke about? And it improves your sleep, improves your mood. So exercise is a poly pill. I highly recommend it to you. But the final answer is not just in exercise. It's very helpful. I want you to do it every day, at least walk 30 minutes a day. So in summary, I must say, as you can tell, I'm excited about starting this culture of wellness at Lutheran Hospital. We're going to involve all the employees, from the person who cleans the floor to the person who talks to the patient, to the people who run the hospital. We're all going to get involved to the best of our ability, get involved to improve the function of the patient. We love you all, and I thank you very much for listening to us, and I hope you will look at our other shows, because every show I'm going to bring this part up, and we're going to be discussing different subjects. Next time I'm going to be speaking about the mind, the ultra mind, how to establish the best mind by eating the right food, will be the next show. But always it will be about wellness, about improving your health, making you more happy, saving you money for you to live to be 100. Remember, I wrote a book, How to Live to be 100. And have a read on my Secret of Reversing Type Diabetes book. I think it would help you a great deal. And we love you all. Namaste. And I hope to see you at the next show. Thank you very much.